After 25 years, the Premier League has seen its fair share of great goal scorers, but it has also witnessed a fair amount of mediocrity in its time. While its greatest players remain revered, some of its worst are equally heralded. Here, we take the countdown from nose 60 to 41, with some names sure to spark a blast from the past. 60. Darko Kovacevic. After scoring a bucket load for Red Star Belgrade, Sheffield Wednesday decided they'd seen enough and brought him to England. Despite 2 goals in a 4-2 win over Bolton in 1996, the Yugoslav international failed to kick on. He departed, and sure enough enjoyed later success with Juventus and Real Sociedad. 59. Euzebiusz Smolarek. A late summer window signing for Bolton in 2008. The Polish striker was looking to resurrect his career after a difficult time at Racing Santander, but under the tutelage of Gary Megson he was unable to reverse the slide, with 12 appearances bringing no returns. 58. Andriy Shevchenko. World-class, serial goal scorer and trophy getter. There was surely no way Andriy Shevchenko could fail at Chelsea. After 2 and 3 games, doubts began to creep in as he struggled to bang the goals in September, and they carried on through October, November. While the scoring was never as bad as painted, 9 and 48 in the Premier League, it was the overwhelming sense of, is this it? He just looked a shadow of the superstar he was before his £30 million moved from AC Milan. 57. Emmanuel Riviere. Just what was the point of Emmanuel Riviere? He arrived for £6 million at Alan Parde's Newcastle and did almost nothing of note. His solitary Premier League goal came away at an already relegated QPR in May 2015, a game which ended in a 2-1 defeat. That sums it all up. 56. Michele Padovano. In November 1997, Crystal Palace paid Juventus £1.7 million for Michele Padovano. An exotic name, a romantic club, but that was all Palace got for it. The Italian striker scored only 1 goal in 12 Premiership matches before shuffling off to Metz. 55. Svetoslav Todorov. Between 2000 and 2007, Svetoslav Todorov played 47 Premier League matches for West Ham, Portsmouth and Wigan. He was lethal in the First Division, scoring 25 times to fire Pompey back into the big time. Yet he scored only 7 times in the Premier League before fading into obscurity. 54. Julius Aghahowa, a penchant, and then some, for one of the most spectacular somersault celebrations in football. The Nigerian made his name at the 2002 World Cup and then followed it up with a lethal 7-year spell at Shakhtar Donetsk. Wigan in the Premier League came calling, but in a year and a half Aghahowa never got the chance to show off his moves. 53. David Healy. What is it about Preston strikers completely floundering when they get their big move to the Premier League? Lawrie Sanchez thought he was bringing the old band back together when the former Northern Ireland boss brought him to Fulham in 2007. He was promptly sacked in December, and Healy scored just 4 times. A move to Sunderland followed, where he was even worse. 52. Jason Lee. More famous for having a pineapple on his head than any discernible skill with a ball at his feet, Lee has become something an iconic 90s footballer. He represents the old era of English football, before the money and the incessant coverage. He scored 14 times in 76 Premiership games for Nottingham Forest before disappearing down the trapdoor of the English pyramid. 51. David Ngog. When Liverpool didn't win the Premier League in 2009, a lot of it had to do with the fact that David Ngog was not Fernando Torres. Regular injury problems restricted Torres to 24 appearances that year, and shunted the Frenchman into the limelight. Clumsy, ungainly and just a bit limited, Ngog's return of 9 goals in 63 is probably higher than you thought. He enjoyed similar success at Bolton, scoring 3 times as they were relegated in 2012. 50, Denis Stracqualuri. With wafer-thin transfer funds and a striking shortage, David Moyes turned to the Argentine Primera Division to solve his problems. Denis Stracqualuri arrived late in the summer transfer window in 2011, but didn't make a league start until January. He managed just a one Premier League goal, in a win against Chelsea, before slinging off back to South America, though became something of a cult hero for the Goodison Park faithful. 49. Park Chu-young, the South Korean international, was handed the number 9 shirt when he arrived in the mad panic of deadline day at the Emirates Stadium in August 2011. He then had the indignity of being stripped of the number, and reassigned the number 30 shirt when Lucas Podolski jetted in 12 months later. After making his Premier League debut in January 2012, he managed only one more in a 3-year spell that included 2 stints out on loan. 48. Jared Borgetti, a Mexican goal-scoring legend. Borgetti arrived at Bolton in 2005 as another cheap foreign import, approaching the twilight of his career and ready for one final challenge. He enjoyed more success for Sam Allardyce's side in the cup competitions and Europa League, but struggled to replicate his feats in front of goal in the league. 2 Premier League goals and 19 appearances cut short his time in England to just 1 season before he headed back to his homeland, via Saudi Arabia. 47. Simone Zaza, signed on the back of a quite hilarious penalty miss in Italy's Euro 2016 quarter-final defeat by Germany last summer. Zaza arrived in England with some form of pedigree. He had played all over Syria, and joined West Ham on a loan deal from Juventus. And yet after 11 scoreless games in all competitions he departed with barely a whimper. Has promptly taken to banging in the goals for Valencia. 46. Daniel Cordone, owner of one of the worst haircuts in Premier League history. Daniel Cordone at least possessed something that made him stand out. The Argentine endured a miserable season in the Northeast after joining in the summer of 2000, and spent just 1 season with Sir Bobby Robson's side. His return of 2 league goals in 21 games rather sums up a forgettable time in England. 45. Sergei Rebrov. Tottenham's acquisition of Ukraine superstar Sergei Rebrov was seen as something of a coup in 2000, even if he did arrive for a then-club record of £11 million. He started well enough, scoring 9 Premier League goals in his debut season. Rebrov scored just once in his second season, with the departure of George Graham severely limiting his chances under Glenn Hoddle. He was loaned out twice to Fenerbahce before an even worse spell in the Championship with West Ham. 44. Jon Dahl Tomasson. You can never quite tell how well a striker from the Dutch league will do in English football, and Jon Dahl Tomasson was one of the first examples. The Dane had excelled with Heerenveen before making the switch to Newcastle in 1997, with Kenny Dalglish wanting to pair him with Alan Shearer. Tomasson's struggles to adapt to English football summed up the post-Kevin Keegan era as the Magpies slipped into mid-table obscurity. That Tomasson went on to enjoy prolific spells with Feyenoord and AC Milan after one failed season in England rubs salt on the wound for Magpies fans. 43. Steve Marlet, newly promoted Fulham smashed their transfer record in August 2001 to buy Steve Marlet from Lyon for £11.5 million. And after just 11 goals in 54 games, Marlet's miserable time in England led to the sack for Jean Tigana. His poor performances also led chairman Mohammed El Fayed to take Tigana to the Court of Arbitration for Sport for the high transfer fee. Tigana, who had ties to Lyon and had briefly been Marlet's agent, was accused of signing him for an exorbitant fee and taking a cut of the fee for himself. The charges were quickly dropped. 42. Marouane Chamakh. After a prolific few years in Ligue 1 with Bordeaux, Arsene Wenger went back to what he knows best, procuring untapped talent in the French market. Unfortunately for the Arsenal boss, by 2010 his success rate had taken a significant dip. Moroccan striker Chamakh scored about 1 in 4 in his debut campaign, but only scored 1 Premier League goal in his second season. He was loaned to West Ham, where he did nothing, and then ran around a bit up top for Crystal Palace before failing to convince Tony Pulis to give him a deal at West Brom in 2016. 41, Andriy Voronin. Utter the words Andriy Voronin to a Liverpool supporter and they will come out in a sweat, and likely break down in tears. Either that or they'll laugh. The Ukrainian striker's numbers don't look so bad. 5 Premier League goals in 27 games. But he really was bad. Erratic in front of goal, unpredictable on the ball. He must have been a nightmare to play alongside. He may have been a free signing, but he remains one of Rafa Benitez's worst in his time at the club.